Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. Let me get a glass of water because I'm hungover as fuck and I have a date in an hour. Girl. Woo. All right. So let's talk about what my life has been recently. So it's so funny. So I'll tell you how my night ended yesterday. My night ended with me going to my bar, the bar that I go to all the time. And the first thing I said to the door guy, who was not the door guy who I like, well, I mean, I like him, but he's not like there's the door guy that like I kind of tried to date, and then there was like the door guy who's like not that guy who like we talk, but like it's not like that. And the first thing I said to him was like I just went on a really bad date. And he was like, you should go on less dates. Yeah, maybe you should go on less dates. You ever think about that? Because he follows my Instagram and he's always seeing me like going on dates and shit. And maybe I should. Maybe I should. But I'm not going to start with that story. I'm going to start with the good story. So a lot of you guys have like if you follow my broadcast, you probably heard me talk recently about the guy who is an actor, the black guy who's an actor who I've been chasing after, who I've been really, really wanting to go on a date with, who, doesn't really respond to texts and so on and so forth. And I kind of used him as like a springboard to talk about my experiences with black men, which are that they're just unavailable most of the time. Because with about the black men that I have connected with and matched with and found attractive and we mutually understood each other, they're just impossible to get a hold of, whereas white guys, not so much. So I've dated a lot of white guys. I haven't dated a lot of black guys, and that's not via design. It's just in general, I'm not the sort of person who's going to chase you. I'm just not. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to hit you up every 3 minutes. But then here I am lying because I totally chased that guy. I totally chased the black guy that I went on a date with. I totally did. But yeah, so just to give you an image of like what that date was like, I was in the process of braiding my hair. I finished my hair, by the way, and I hate being blonde so much. I hate being blonde so fucking much. I don't know why I chose this color. Oh, I know why I chose this color, because it makes me fucking uncomfortable. Like, I know that's why. But ultimately, like, I don't like this color. I like red. I think after this, I'm gonna like stick to red and do it. I'm just gonna do it for the rest of my life because that's the color I know works. But I'm blonde now, and I took a long time to do it. So I'm going to have it in my head for at least 2 months. Usually I try to push it for 4, but I don't know if I can make it because I just don't like being blonde. But maybe I'll get used to it. I don't know. Anyway, so I was not finished braiding my hair. My goal initially was to have my hair done for the date with the black guy, because in my mind, you know, he's black, he's gonna be very like judgmental about my hair. So like, let me get my hair done, and so, or finished rather. And so I worked really hard to get my hair finished, but I just didn't get it done in time. And so what I ended up doing is wearing like a scarf over my head, and I tied it around in like a bandana type of fashion. And so imagine this. Okay, so I was wearing this blue scarf, right, tied around my head while wearing an orange dress, because I was like, oh, orange and blue are I overthought it. Orange and blue complementary colors. Like, I'm gonna look a little weird, but like not that weird, because at least I'm matching in a way. And then like blonde hair. So it was like blue scarf, orange dress, blonde hair on a black woman. Too much, right? And plus, I was wearing like the boots I wear all the time, which are like knee-high boots. And so I looked like a fucking pirate. And so I was super, I felt really ugly. I felt super, super unattractive, to be honest. And I was pretty upset with myself, because like, had I not gone to bed, early, the way that I wasn't planning to go to bed, because I did like, that thing where you're like, oh, I'll get a couple of hours, I'll get a couple hours. I did that thing, but then I ended up sleeping for 5, right? And so, my, I could have gotten it done had I not gone to sleep, but I went to sleep, and so, there I am. And so we went to the speakeasy. I chose it. I've never been there before. And I didn't know how to get in. Because like the door was like a door of knobs, right? And you could literally open like any single one. I mean, not open, but like you could try a bunch of different knobs before you know which is the right one. And so it was really confusing to get in, but once I got in, it was a really, really cool place. It was hella packed too. I was not expecting that. And I waited for him, and he was taking a while to show up, and I always forget. See, I Uber everywhere. I don't drive. So I always forget that, like, for most people, when you live here, you have to drive, right? I totally forgot. And so he was having some hard time parking. And then he got there and was like, oh, I don't really want to drink, which I was like, well, fuck, we could have I didn't say this, but I was like, why did we come here if you didn't want to drink? Like, why a bar? But he told me he was having like a bad day or whatever, And so much like most of my good dates, I can't really say much about it because there's not much to say, But it was a really, really good day. So when he gave me a hug, I just knew that we were like because he's very strong and grabby. And so he gave me a hug, and it was just very like, and he explained to me, because I told you guys how I'd been like texting him and stuff, and he had been like responding and things. And he told me that like, he's just not great at that. And he showed me his phone, and he totally isn't good at that. But that didn't mean he wasn't interested. He's just busy. And so I take his word for it. And so, date went really well. We had a really, really good chemistry. He's so handsome. He's so handsome. Like, he's so cute. And I'm glad that we got an opportunity to connect, because I don't know, he was like one of the only guys. So for those of you guys who don't remember, he's the guy that I met. There was a guy who was dropping me off at my bar after our date, and he like waited outside of the bar. He was like leaving the bar because he was doing like a showing of one of the fucking shitty web shows he's on. No offense, because he's an actor. And as he was dropping me off, as the guy was dropping me off, he was leaving and he sort of like lingered there for a moment to wait for the guy to leave and then came up to me and was like, "Hey, I think we've matched on like every dating site possible." And I was like, "Oh, you know what?" Like I was drunk, so I was like, "Yeah, I mean, you definitely look like someone who I would match with." So I'm not doubting it at all. And so we that was like a really cute way to meet, and we just had instant chemistry. Um, you know, and so I was really excited for the date, but it was really hard to get to go on that fucking date. But the date was really, really nice. We ended on a good note. We did kiss, and the kiss was really good. It's really nice to kiss someone whose lips match mine. That was really nice. And he's a great kisser. Like I didn't tell like physically we're getting along really well because he's very strong and I'm very compliant. So I feel like it's just gonna work really well when and if it gets there. But he's also, he's busy, he's going through a lot of shit, and so, not 100% sure about relationship potential there, but we'll fucking see, I guess. So yesterday, right? Let me tell you guys about this date with the alt-right guy. Because bitch. All right, so I told you guys a little while back. I think I might have done a broadcast as I was getting ready for this, but I went to a concert, the first concert I've ever been to. It was a Grendel and Covenant concert, industrial music concert, right? And so I was really sort of at that concert with someone loosely, the guy that I ended up kissing at the goth party. It was a date. I don't know what to technically call that. But it was a good time. But anyway, so there was a time at that night where I was drinking red wine and I got up to go to the bar to get some red wine. And I'd sort of seen this guy sort of checking me out when I was in the crowd. I saw him sort of checking me out. So, there was that vibe there. And so when I went to go get red wine, I did the thing I do at bars, which is a recent conversation. I told him a lot about where I'm coming from and, who I am. This was between sets. I think this was right before it went on, actually. And I gave him like a good rundown of where I'm at, just out of a relationship, dating again, figuring out what I like, because he kind of did the thing that not a lot of people do, but some people do, where they're like, "So you're into this sort of music? Like, what do you do?" Which I hate because I'm still figuring a lot of my shit out. So like, don't come for me. But anyway, so we had like a decent conversation, and he mentioned that like he throws these parties at his house all the time. And I'm in the space of life now currently where I'm really just trying to be social and meet people and have a good time, right? Because I really hadn't been in my past relationship. So I was like, just really trying to have a good fucking time. So when a guy was like, "Oh yeah, I throw parties," and they were specifically burner parties, like he knows a lot of burners, and I've been kind of wanting to go to Burning Man and stuff. And so I was like, fuck, I would love to come to, these parties that have goths and burners and all types of people that I love and want to be around all the time. And so we exchange information. And, I didn't really think of it in much of a way, right? I thought of it in terms of like, this is a cool person to know, you know? Now this guy he told me yesterday, 60 years old, right? And is he a bad looking 60-year-old? Not really. But he's not really someone who I necessarily look at and think, "Oh yeah, this is someone I want to date," right? And I could definitely tell that he was attracted to me in the way that like a lot of men are, but I didn't Like, there's that thing where like men will flirt with you but not really pursue you. Social taboo or this or this or that. Let me check that real quick. Don't look at my butt. Oh my god, stop. Stop. What are you doing? Oh my god. Don't look at my ass. Oh my god, stop blowing up my shit. Alright, sorry. Ooh, girl, I really need to clean my room. My room is a fucking mess right now. What was I trying to say? So yeah, so I didn't think much of it. And so earlier this week he texted me and he was like, do you want to go get a drink with me on Thursday night? And I was like, well, fuck, I really can't see why not. He seems like a cool person. Like, why not? Like I didn't really think, too much about it. But then I also thought, like, I was not really going into it with the mindset of this is a date, right? Because I'm like, I'm not really interested in this guy. He seems like a cool person, but like, I'm not really interested in this guy. That's not what my approach and mindset was. So anyway, I finished my hair. I'm rushing to finish my hair so I can like be ready for this. Because I do like having like these landmark things I should do so I can get something done, And so, trying to get my hair done so I can go out with this guy, it was like a goal of mine. And I hit it. So, it is what it is. Now I will say that we did push our meeting back hours and hours and hours. We're supposed to meet at 8. No, we're supposed to meet at 8. We didn't end up meeting until 10:30. Because I wasn't fucking done with my hair. And so we meet, and he looks nice. He's got like a little button-up shirt, which is definitely a thing that I wish more men did. Like, don't show up, in fucking sweatshirts or whatever. And so our conversation started like really nicely. He was, first of all, he was buying all the alcohol, which I appreciate, obviously, because I usually pay for myself. But, I have a thing where like I'll let a man, if he really wants to pay for something, I'll let him pay for something. And so, we were having decent conversations, and I don't really remember how it got here. I think it was because I was, what it was? I was talking about my work. And I don't really remember how it got here. I think it was because I was, what it was? I was talking about my work. He asked me like what I did. And I mentioned that, I was a speaker, illustrator, writer, and animator. And, he asked me like what I talked about. And I was like, women's issues, feminism, da 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 da. And he was like, so you're a feminist? And I was like, yeah, I'm a feminist, And so for context, guys, at least the one that I'm part of, I would say there's definitely elements that aren't. I feel like it's almost like one extreme or the other. It's either people are very, very socially aware and socially active, or they're not, and they're belligerent and they don't give a fuck, right? It's kind of like here or there. But so when I meet men in the goth community, I kind of tend to assume that they have what I like to call good politics, right? And so we start talking about this shit. And because he hears that I'm a feminist, now mind you, this guy did not know that I was transgender. Side note. And I didn't feel like it was worth telling him because I'm not gonna fuck you. I'm not interested in dating you, and also if you were really curious, you could have fucking researched. Not that I want people to research me, but you could research me. And so anyway, so he starts talking about like because he knows I'm a feminist, he starts asking me about gender differences, right? And you know, I kind of said to him about gender differences because my thing with that is, well, I told him that anyone who thinks you can find gender in biology is just like they're not doing it correctly, you know. So if your whole conversation about gender is relating to something biological, because he was like, do you think gender is one of the big conversations we had is do you think gender is socially constructed, right? And you guys know, if you follow me, you know how I feel about these conversations. I do not like to have that fucking conversation because it's such an aggravating conversation. I think that cis people, by virtue of them being cis, will always see gender as a very innate thing, right? Gender is innate. It's not socially constructed. You don't understand those things because you were born a certain way and then you just sort of live and then you accept everything people have told you about what your gender is based on, in their minds, your genitalia. And so you don't really question gender. You don't really challenge gender. You don't really go beyond what gender is supposed to be for you. It feels natural and innate because you're comfortable with it and that's how you're taught to be and you have no issue with it, right? Trans people often very uniquely know what it feels like to see that this is their expectation of their gender and then be like, no, fuck that, I'm gonna do me, right? Whereas cis people just don't usually have that experience. Now, cis people might buck the they might try to fight against, some of the expectations of their gender for sure. Like women will definitely try to fight, for, more rights and stuff like that. But usually they don't see that early at will put their gender at risk, right? You wanting more authority as a woman doesn't change your gender, right? And so they don't look at it. They still, even in that context, don't really look at it in the same way. When you're a trans person, you just sort of know shit and you see how gender is socially constructed because you have all these expectations that don't fit who you are. And so you're going to always have a more intimate understanding of what gender is than the average cis person. And I think a lot of cis people are salty as fuck when I say that. And as far as I'm concerned, you can lick my meat, to be frank. I said what I said. I'm trying to find my eyeliner right now. I'll be right back. Oh my god, where did I put my eyeliner? Is this gonna the eyeliner is gonna make me late. This fucking I can't leave the house without some goddamn eyeliner. No, where's my eyeliner? I just put it over here, no? I thought I just had eyeliner. I thought it was like right here. Okay, maybe putting my glasses on will help. Oh, these are out of prescription. But where? Oh, right here. See, the moment I put it on. Okay, so I'm gonna do my eyeliner, and then I'm gonna finish what I was saying. Because this is a very serious thing, and I can't fuck it up. Ooh, I hate being blonde so much. I don't know what I'm doing with my eyeliner. I don't think I've ever done my eyeliner like this ever. Or maybe I have and I just don't remember. All right, so I gotta let my eyeliner fucking dry. So a big part of our conversation, because we were talking. So I talked a lot about socialization, right? And now, for fucking context, y'all, and I've talked about this a lot of times on here. If I'm out and I'm drinking, the last fucking thing I want to talk about is work or politics or any sort of this sort of shit. I don't want to have that conversation. I'm here to fucking disengage, to be drunk and be fucking stupid. I'm not interested in having like a real fucking debate or conversation with you. Like, no. And this was clearly the kind of guy who really, really loved being confrontational and arguing and all that shit. Like he really got off on debate. He told me I was on the debate team in school, which of course doesn't mean that you were good at it. It just means you were on the fucking debate team. That nothing about you being on the debate team means you're good at what you do, but whatever. So we start talking about, is gender socially constructed? And I literally laid it out for him that yes, gender is fucking socially constructed. I think, frankly, honestly, so that's one of the most aggravating conversations for me, because it's so fucking obvious that gender is socially constructed. But then you have to ask what this person means by gender, because if you're tying gender into your genitalia, you're not really going to have. We're not talking about the same thing. I'm not talking about your genitalia and this and this and that. I don't think that's socially constructed. I think that what we say about having certain genitalia is, yes, socially constructed, right? Now, bitch, I'm like 3 drinks in having this conversation with him. And when I'm drunk, I'm like one of like 3 sort of emotions. I'm either very, very friendly and happy and stupid, very, very passive aggressive, but fun, and maybe a little condescending. Or I'm like a bitch, or I'm like a fucking bitch, And with the shit this guy was saying, because I have a thing, like, if you want to maintain a good relationship with me and you have bad politics, don't let me know about it. Don't let me know about it, because it's really hard for me. Like, listen, I'm paid to be patient with people. Okay? I can be patient with people often because there's a paycheck at the end of the fucking conversation, right? In my everyday life, bitch, don't walk up to me and expect me to be patient with you, because if I know you have bad politics, I'm really not going to want to fuck with you. I'm not interested in convincing you out of your shitty beliefs. I'm just not. If you feel that way, you feel that way. Fucking sucks, man. But at the same time, it is what it is. So anyway, then he starts going on this whole thing about, biological differences between men and women. And most of what he talked about was libidos, and how men have, a large libido, and that like he has never been able to meet a woman who's been able to match his libido. Right? And we had a decent conversation earlier where we talked about how, for a lot of women, sex has more of a consequence. Men can go and fuck almost anyone and everything, but women often have to be a little bit more careful, because what happens sometimes is they can get pregnant, and then they can have this burden of life, that, and their body changing because of it. And so I told him, women are a little bit more careful about who they have sex with, and sex is very different for women. And also, we live in a society where women are discouraged from openly expressing that they're interested in sex. You know? So it's not that women have a lower libido necessarily. It's that women view sex differently. Men view sex as very inconsequential, whereas women often view sex as consequential, you know? And so that's what it is. It has nothing to do with whether or not women like to fuck as much as men do. There's nothing to do with it. So, he, didn't quite like that answer because apparently he's been around a lot of women who didn't want to fuck him, which I don't blame them, frankly. So then I don't remember how we got here. Because through this conversation, several times, he indignantly got up and went to go get more drinks, And it was really dramatic, And bitch, listen, I'm trying to have a good time. All right. I came out to have a good time and I'm feeling very attacked right now. I did not walk into this space wanting to have a fucking conversation with someone about biological differences between men and women. I wanted to have a good motherfucking time. Right? And so I forgot how we got here, but at some point we started talking about freedom of speech. And this is like where I really lost respect for him because he was complaining about what happened at Berkeley and how, Milo Yiannopoulos wasn't, allowed to speak. Now, let me line my lips because I know I have to go soon. You have to go soon. Oh my God. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, mate. Come on. Where's my pencil sharpener? I feel like I buy so many pencil sharpeners. Where do they all go, though? Oh, it's literally right in front of me. All right. Okay. I mean, my hair color looks better when I have makeup on. That's how I feel. I don't know. I hate when I don't. Anyway. And so we start talking about freedom of speech. And like, this is one of the most aggravating conversations for me. Because the vast majority of people who binge and don't understand why freedom of speech was created. Freedom of speech is like, I mean, first of all, if you read your fucking constitution, you'd know that freedom of speech does not mean you can say whatever the fuck you want. You'd know that. You'd also know that it's not about, your fucking favorite shitlords on the internet being able to speak at colleges and be paid for it. Like, that's not at all what freedom of speech is about. And so he started referencing like shit that happened at Berkeley as like a free speech violation, and I was like, nigga, it's really not. It's really not. It's really and truly not. Okay, so I'm going to. Where did my glasses go? Where did I put my glasses? These glasses are so thin that when I don't have my glasses on, I really do lose them. All right, so I'm going to pull this camera up since I'm going to be getting dressed now. And I'll keep talking because I got to go soon. And so, yeah, so he starts talking to me about, you know, how these left-wing radical protesters, you know, are violating freedom of speech. And you guys have to understand that, like, for me, a lot of these conversations are very different because I speak at colleges. You know, I'm a paid speaker at colleges, and so I know this world. I've been doing it for the past 3 years of my life, and you know, no signs of that slowing down anytime soon, right? So for me, when I hear someone talking about this, I think I hear it in a very different way because I don't because I know what happens when you're getting hired on as a speaker at these colleges. Usually it's a result of you know, clubs pulling their money together, inviting you, reserving a space, and there's a lot of paperwork, right? There's a lot of fucking paperwork, you know. And what a lot of these people are complaining about is not being invited to these colleges and being paid to speak, right? And I'm not someone who's going to bring police to the fucking campus that's going to, you know, wrap them up, you know, $7 million rather, in you know, fees for having police there. I don't do talks about hate. I do talks about love, and I do talks about you know, not throwing people down but bringing people up, right? Uplifting people. That's what I'm about, right? And so, you know, I'm not going to have, you know, the controversy, you know, and the thing that I, you know, because slowly but surely through this conversation, he revealed to me that he was a fucking conservative. And not only that, but he also started to tell me that he was apparently close friends with Ann Coulter, right? And I'm telling you, when these people bitch and moan about not being invited to campuses, they're lying to you, you know? Because here's my thing. You want to make it a fucking free speech issue? You want to make it a free speech issue? You know, you want to make it an issue of being allowed to speak? The truth is, the vast majority of these people could come and peacefully, you know, say what they need to say, the way that every corner preacher, the way that every fucking proselytizing asshole does anyway. You know, you can do that. You can fucking do that. What they're really upset about is not being allowed to come to these campuses because of their fucking, all the issues they bring to the campus and be paid to speak. Most of these people don't want to come to college campuses just cause, you know, a lot of these people are not really invested in the, they're invested in all the prestige that comes with being someone who's invited to speak at a college campus. They're not really that invested in actually helping and fostering anything for those people, right? And so it's all about fucking money for these guys. It's about money and it's about prestige. And the more you speak, because here's the thing, I'll just let you in on something. The more you speak at different events, right, the more likely you are to get opportunities that lead to you getting more money for speaking at events, right? So someone who is willing to speak at an event for free is not necessarily in it because, oh, I just love the community and this and this and that, you know. especially if they're working as a speaker, it's something that they're doing because they're going to get something at the end of the day. It might not happen immediately, but it's going to happen eventually. And so when I hear these people complaining about their freedom of speech being limited, it's like one of the most fucking disingenuous things I've ever fucking heard. Because no one's preventing you to talk. Like, so I had this whole fucking argument with him about why, freedom of speech is about government intervention, right? The reason why it was created was because we wanted to have America be a country where you could openly criticize the government without being fucking killed. And I got really fucking serious with him about this shit because it's just like a really big fucking thorn in my side. There are people currently imprisoned in this world because they live in countries where they can't openly criticize the government without being punished. And for someone to bitch and moan about not being able to speak at a college campus because the young minds are that's just the most fucking annoying thing to me ever. It's annoying, it's disingenuous, because we live in a free country, and not being able to speak at one space has literally nothing to do with violating freedom of speech. It just does not. It really has nothing to do with it. It doesn't. And so I told him, I said this in point blank. I said, anyone to me who bitches and moans about freedom of speech but has never read it is fucking idiot to me. I can't respect somebody who is, because you're super passionate about some shit you don't fucking understand. You have a lot of opinions about this thing, but you don't fucking understand it. So you're just someone talking about nothing. And he was like, how are you so sure about this? I was like, because I fucking researched it. Because I told him, that freedom of speech literally does not mean you can say whatever the fuck you want. In fact, under the Constitution, there are certain articles that explain that you can't say whatever the fuck you want. And he was like, well, yeah, it does mean that. Because all these idiots here is like, freedom of speech, I can say whatever the fuck I want. Whatever the fuck I want. But it's like, no, you can't say whatever the fuck you want. You can say most things, but freedom of speech is not freedom from consequence. And on top of that, freedom of speech does not mean, that you can say whatever the fuck you want to say. I don't care how many times you want to say that. That's not what freedom of speech is. And so it's actually pretty aggravating. It was really aggravating for me to have that conversation with him. Because he was getting really upset and very passionate. Like, we were in a loud bar. But he was yelling. And he just went on and on about freedom of speech. And one sec, let me find the place I'm going to. One sec. One sec. Okay. Hopefully I'll get there on time. I might be able to. I think maybe I'm not, but we'll see. Oh, okay. No, I'm not. I'm gonna get there a little late. Did we say 12:30 though, or did we say? Oh yeah, we said 12:30, so I'll be there on time. Perfect. See how that works out. I just need to start thinking about stuff being like 30 minutes ahead of time. I hate my hair so much. Do you know, it's like my hair looks really good in the sunlight, but then like, I don't know, like on camera, I don't like it. But anyway, so to sort of round things up, we were just having really fucking passionate conversation. And I think he thought, like, because he had this whole thing about challenge me. I like when women challenge me. And I'm like, bitch, listen. I like men who are smart, okay? I like men who are smart, all right? Like, I do not like dating men who I have to explain. Like, to me, like I said to him, there's classic examples of speech that isn't protected. You can't yell fire in a movie theater, right? You can't say you're going to kill the president. That's shit that we all know. And like, we learn this, we learn this in fucking middle school, um, you know what I mean? So it's like, to me, it's not fun to talk to somebody who is so fucking ignorant that they don't even they want to challenge me on shit that's basic. That's basic. And so he sent me a text after our date. And so the text was like, hey, thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you for challenging me and my core beliefs and ideas. I really appreciate it, and I completely understand if you have no interest in continuing to dialogue with me, but I think you've opened up my mind to more alternative ways of thinking than anyone has in years. And I'm like, I don't want to. Look, you know what? Here's the thing. Do you know what? So I was dating a guy who was he was a socialist, and his politics were more radical than mine were. He went undercover at a fucking alt-right convention. And to me, that shit's hot as hell. Someone who has politics that are more radical than mine, who maybe says things that are a little bit more extreme than I say, honestly, that's sexy as fuck to me. Talking to somebody who has not read, because here's my thing that I said to him. I don't think he actually got this. Because, you guys know me. I like to see things in multiple ways. I like to see things in ways, that are, I'm always of two minds on most things, right? And so when it comes to girl, this hair is not going to last long on me. Not on me. I'm putting I'm putting in red hair probably in a couple of weeks. I cannot stand this. I can't stand this color. I braid it really fast though. What I said to him, and I really don't think he got this, was, do you think Ann Coulter and Milo Yiannopoulos are the best representations of conservatism? Do you think that they actually represent conservatism? Because, for me, as someone who, had a relatively conservative upbringing, I look at both of those people and say they're everything I don't think conservatism is, And there are conservatives who feel that way. I would say a lot of them do. But a lot of people support Ann Coulter and Milo Yiannopoulos because in their view, they're pissing off the libs. And they just love the idea of pissing off the libs, And for them, that's what conservatism is mostly about, is them pissing off the libs, And it's like, that's not what it's about, dude. That's not what it's about. And it's really sad to me that for a lot of people, that's what it's become. It's become, oh, I just want to piss off the liberals, It hasn't really become about, let's actually talk about what our actual core beliefs are. It's about, let's piss off the libs. And to me, that's really, what conservatism actually is at its core. That's really missing the point. I get that people want to support, because here's what I said to him. I told him about the time when Milo Yiannopoulos targeted a student, right? Where he called out a trans student who went to the college he was currently at, who was criticizing him online, put her picture up on the board and said, she still looks like a man, I would still fuck her. Or fuck him, rather. That's what he said. And, you know, for me, as someone who speaks at colleges, I told them, like, these are kids, right? These are children. You may not like what they're saying. You may not like what they're saying, right? But these are kids, okay? And as an authority standing on stage, it's very irresponsible for you to call someone out who lives on that campus, who people are going to see after you're gone, after you're long gone, and target them for harassment. It's an abuse of power, you know? And so for me, when I'm talking to someone who doesn't quite get that, it's a pretty big fucking turnoff for me. It's a pretty big fucking turnoff. And so what he said in response to that is, well, if they didn't want that to be said, you know, if they didn't want that to happen, they shouldn't have said it. You know, this is the same guy bitching and moaning about people protesting Milo's talks, right? So it's weird how, like, they can understand, you know, they can understand being critical of someone who's criticizing someone they like, but when someone's coming on campus and threatening to out students who are undocumented, who's throwing trans people up on, who go to the college and attacking them personally, it's a confusing thing now. You know, it's a confusing, they don't get it. Like, why can't they just accept that they put themselves there? You know? And so someone said, why is Kat even entertaining anyone right-leaning, let alone alt-right? It's a waste of time and energy with people who hold such racist beliefs. Now, some of you guys probably didn't actually get the earlier part of this conversation, and maybe you're just coming in now, which is fine, where I met him at a goth party, okay? I met him in a situation where I did not expect him to be such a hateful asshole. You know, I guess I assumed, because of what the goth community has generally been, that he was someone who was definitely more left-leaning. And him having these positions, him, you know, being this way did not come out until I was like 3 drinks deep, you know? And all of a sudden we were talking about freedom of speech and this and this and that. I didn't know. I would not have gone out on a date with a guy who felt this way. I thought I met him for like 10 minutes at a goth party, and I was like, he seems like a cool person. Let's hang out. You know, we can hang out, whatever, you know. And turned out to be not a good idea. So anyway, my driver is here. So I'm gonna go. But yeah, I don't know how he could have that conversation with me and think, oh yeah, we're gonna hang out again. No. Because it's not even like, see, it's not even him disagreeing with me. That's not it at all. It's more how he got so physically upset. He got so physically upset. He was gesturing to me like this and all this shit. It was like a switch went off. It was such a weird experience to have, where we were having this relatively good conversation, you know, and all of a sudden he's ranting and raving about Ann Coulter and Milo Yiannopoulos not being allowed to speak on college campuses. It really blindsided me. I would not have gone out. If we had a conversation about that shit when we were at the concert, I would have never agreed to hang out with him. I would have never given him my contact information. I would have never done anything like that. It was too much. It was very, very scary. It was very, very scary. So anyway, I'm going to go. My car is here. This has been fun. Let's talk later. I'm on my way to a date now. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.